Hello, everybody. Welcome to my new Diamond Network podcast. So, this podcast is going to be mainly about talking with other people within the RMLB community, talking about my power rankings, why I'm making my power rankings, and the things that are happening around RMLB. So, this is episode 1, and episode 1's theme will be how to create a winning baseball team in RMLB. So, today there's no special guest because I'm going to be hosting the show myself. I want you guys to get to know me first. So it's my first time doing this, so we'll see how this goes. So first, starting off, it's like to making a winning team. It's kind of like you kind of have to plan ahead here. So in RMLB, 5 players are needed to, play like a game. Or 5 players to fill the entire field. And it is really important to have all those 5 fielders because you need them to be in the exact spot. Like, when someone throws a ball, it's really hard to, if there's only 2 people to get the pitcher out there and, field the ball because it's too much. And the key to win is to have active players. The active players don't have to be that good to, but they have to be capable of knowing the rules and knowing at least how to play the game of baseball exact. It's more of you know, it's like the teaching aspect. You gotta teach them, know the rules. Because some team owners don't have the capability of doing that because, they're new. Because usually our first team owners, they're new and they don't know really what they're doing too much because it's more of it's their first time playing too, as long as they're players. So usually they sign just random people, which is okay, but it's really not because it is really, really, really hard to train a good player that shows up. You can't really teach them the showing up aspect of the game, but you can teach them the fundamentals like hitting, fielding, base running. It's really, really hard to teach them to show up. But if you can get the activity out of, some of the, mostly all the players, at least have, let's say, 4 players show up to a game or 3, that is still enough to win, but it is not enough to go deep into the playoffs. It's as a World Series team. It is really hard to build a really good World Series team. But let's go look back at some of the stats from the previous World Series teams. So first, we'll start off with, let's take a look at Season 1, for example. So the Season 1 World Series was run by the Orioles, right? And it was everyone's first year of owning, so you can't really put the aspect into, you have to be experienced. I mean, there was experience at RBL when it was basketball method, but it really wasn't much. It was only a couple seasons. So let's take a look. So first season RMLB, you see the Orioles. They were the World Series champions, right? So it was they went. I'm pretty sure. Let's take a look. They went they won 11-1 in their first year of playing, which is extremely impressive. But let's take a look at that roster. See what the really key players in this team. So there was a lot of trade moves. Like the Phillies were good, but they weren't great. For a while, they were really good, but they really fell off after the team owner Graham decided to trade all the players for some reason. I don't know why, but we'll see. So let's take a look at the players. So some pretty notable names like Agent Day Salt Fade. I was actually on this team, but not for a while. I didn't really play. But Harry, legend, another one, Mateo, pretty known. Mr. Windows, I've really never heard of him, but I think he was good. Noob, one of the greatest players of our time right now, future Hall of Famer. Tampa, a good hitter, not a very great fielder. As you can see, it's really hard to teach the fielding aspect of the game, as a fact, the hitting aspect. Then, you have Vibe, a decent player. Plov, another Hall of Famer. There is a lot of people on this team that came through in their postseason run. As I see, they started off because they won their division, right? So, and they were at the top of the American League. So first place in the American League was the Orioles. So they swept the Guardians and they swept the Giants in the World Series. And I guess we really like it was only the first season, so people were like, okay, well the Orioles, they had really good players. They had great players. All these people on this team were amazing at what they were doing. It was it was really impressive how the Orioles did and how they put this team together because he didn't like it was really good coaching by him because he didn't really know like what to like do, but he did pretty well actually for his first season of owning. And the players on his team, he really put together a great contending roster, which is really, really, really good for the first season of RMLB. Anyways, moving to the second season. Second season was a little bit more competitive as everybody started to know the game a little bit. So first place Orioles, second place Dodgers. This is when the really Josh era came out to alive. The Reds, the White Sox. So this is the time when Wumper, the season 3 Hall of Famer inductee, really started to ramp up here. And this is the year that he was founded into the league. First on the Marlins, then on the White Sox. Now the White Sox, they were a great team, but they couldn't get it done against the Orioles again. So this time, 18 playoffs. Once again, in the ALDS, the Orioles, once again, they put on a great show in the World Series, the ALCS, and the ALDS. You have to have really great players to go through that. Like, you can't just completely have 2 players to show up to each game because you need to have the depth in your depth chart. If someone doesn't show up, you need to have the backup. Like, let's say the left fielder doesn't show up, you need to have the backup left fielder in the game, or it's just not going to work for you. You have to have active players, and active players that know what they're doing. And you have to have the pitching for it. Because sometimes, okay, most teams now have one pitcher. That's good, right? One pitcher is enough. But it's really not, though. Let's take an example for the Mets. The Mets, great player in Vibe as they signed him in the offseason. But it was like, if he doesn't show up, who's going to pitch? Like, who's going to pitch there? Because no one will pitch. If there's no pitcher, it's going to be really hard to... I mean, you don't have to be a great pitcher to pitch, to be a good pitcher, but you need to have the fielders behind you, which the Mets don't have, as seen in the recent loss to the Cardinals in the NLDS. Their fielding wasn't great. The left fielder struggled as in C-bands. I mean, the field was a little bit funky, but you can't really blame it on the field too much as you dropped 5 balls in a row, I was counting. Then you really have to have the fielders to be a good pitcher. I mean, I guess if you can't hit the ball, like some pitchers like Legend, Couch, some really notable ones here. You have to be really good to be a pitcher without a field. Like, if you don't have the fielders and they catch the ball every time, it's going to be really difficult for you to win. Another aspect important about winning is having a lineup that can everybody hits. Because you only get 3 outs in an inning. And let's say it's the bottom of the third, you're the home team, you're down by 3, right? If you're at the bottom 3 in your order and they can't hit, the game's over, basically, because it's just not how it works. Once you get the hitting part, it really all comes together. But, like, you have to have, let's say, 5 guys that can hit, 4 guys that can hit, because you can't have a designated fielder, which I think helped a lot of teams. But if you really don't have... If you have only 4 players, they kind of all have to bat, or they really don't have to bat. But the minimum is at least 4 players to show up on the team, or you really won't succeed. And a lot of these teams don't practice, which I really see in, like, I really don't see in RMLB as much as I did in RBL when I played a couple seasons. Like 1 or 2 seasons, there was practices, which is really weird. But, you know, it's kind of like you have to host practices for your team to get better. Like, some team owners, like, let's take for an example, Akio, as his first, like, I mean, still it is now. If you're ever on his team, you don't know what's going to happen. So if you're, like, a new player and you just go on the team with Akio and he doesn't teach you how to play, you don't know what to do. So your first game, you're up at the bat. You actually have no clue of what to actually do. So you're kind of at a lost stake already because you don't know what to do, and it's gonna really hurt your team if that one player in that one at bat won't like work. Like if there's two outs in the bottom of the third inning, once again, it comes back to the point everyone has to know how to hit, or they just be a designated fielder. Akio, once again, he has a really good season this year, putting up great numbers, but you really have to put all the pieces together to be able to win a game. So let's take an example. Let's take from the Mets again. I don't need to pick on the Mets because I don't like them so much, but you really have to have balanced all ways, because if you can't field and you can hit, you're gonna have to put up like a lot of runs to be able to like. You get what I'm saying? Like, you need to put up runs to come back for the errors you make. But the Mets won't be able to do that in the first game. So that's why they did take a little beating there. Anyways, let's move to Season 3 and take a look at the winning roster. Capital and Humper Wumper Reed. Because this team that they made in Season 3, the Boston Red Sox, they were a really good, sound, fundamental team. And from showing them, when I was umping games in the ALDS, the ALCS for them, I could really see that they did practice. And that will show because they did cuts. There was a play at third. I was so remember this. I have a clip of it where the ball was hit the right field all the way to pesky pole. Over there in the corner, there's a little loop there. And you see, like, there's no chance it's going to be a triple. So, I guess it was Capital in right field, I believe. And he grabs the ball, throws it to Wumper, which is standing on second. The Wumper throws it to third when Nerdy's covering. And that's, like, you really won't see that in a video game, but that's a really good, sound, fundamental baseball there. You really have to put in the work to win the World Series. Some team owners don't get that. But there's a really following pattern here where the Los Angeles Dodgers, a team that's hasn't been, great, it's been made the World Series 2 years in a row, but they still can't bring it together. There's a missing piece to that roster that is really gonna, despite if they're gonna win playoff games or not. Like, the regular season's the breeze. It's really easy because you're playing all the teams. But now in the playoffs, you're playing really good teams, and it's really going to hurt you if you don't have the missing piece to your roster. Because when I commentated the game for Capitals Network, the right fielder Tampa really seemed to struggle in right field, which will be an issue for them. If good teams and good owners start to catch on to that, they will keep throwing it to Tampa, and if he keeps dropping it, the game will never end because there's going to be so much run scored. It's like, if you don't have fundamental fielders, so let's say in left and right field, the pitcher covers center, that's great. So, but if you have a good left fielder and a good right fielder, you stick the other guy in the infield if they're not really good. But some team owners just put their players out there. As for an example, Akio in season 2 and 3, he was a terrible team. But now he actually understands the team owning and really, really, really put in the depth where he's going to put his players, which puts you in set to win. And that's what they did this season. They made the playoffs. They're going to face the Guardians, and they have a really good chance to beat the Guardians because they just beat them in the regular season the last week. So it's going to be a really, really hard time for the Guardians if they really face a good fundamental sound Blue Jays team, and I believe the Blue Jays can make a run in the playoffs this season if Akio really steps us up and starts being a leader on his team. But that's not always the case. Some team owners don't even play. Like, for example, the Cubs, Fish Sticks didn't even play. He just wanted to coach, which I get it, which will put your focus more on the player development part. But if you're not a role model, you don't, like, people take notes when they're at the game. I did it when I was a new player in season 2. I bet a lot of people did. It's all, like, you gotta watch to see how everybody plays the game so you can, learn. But if the team owner doesn't play, it's going to be really hard to learn from a player because a player is there to play, not to coach. So you really have to, the team owner really has to step up and play, or they're not going to ever learn. Because if the team owner / coach doesn't coach, how are the players going to teach players? That's why the coach is there to teach. But if coach doesn't play, it's going to be a really hard time for teams to succeed. And the Cubs barely missed out on the playoffs because of that. But you still got to give Fish Sticks a great prompt for putting together a team that wasn't really projected to go anywhere, and they just missed out on the playoffs by just 2 or 3 games, I believe. So it was a really great team effort for them, but it just wasn't enough because they didn't have that missing piece. So once again, tying it back, if you don't have a complete roster, you will not win. I mean, you may win in the regular season, but you will not win in the playoffs. I'm telling you that now. So let's move on to season 4 here. So season 4 is still going on, right? The first playoff game was played on Saturday against the Cardinals and the Mets. As I was talking about earlier in the show, the Mets did really struggle with their missing piece in the outfield. The left fielder, Seabans, wasn't having a great day. So they dropped a couple balls, and they were leading. They were leading 1-0. But then the Cardinals proceeded to score 6 runs on them, and they couldn't really answer back. Final score is 9-2 at Busch, which is, they got to come into game 2 ready to play, and they really have to work on that outfield, or they're never gonna get anywhere. You really have to really work on the stuff you don't know how to do, or it's never gonna work. Then let's talk about some possible good team contenders for this season, and there's a couple from each side of the bracket. So let's take a look in the NL first. We have the Mets and the Dodgers. That is my projected NLCS right there. Both of those teams have capabilities to beat every single team in the AL. As for the Orioles, though, the Orioles, they're going for the 3rd championship in franchise history, which will be probably the most RMLB will ever see. But the problem with that is they're going to be way too overconfident, but they really have a good roster with Fracken, Agent, Chico. That's a really good team. But there's always going to be a missing piece at catcher. It could be anywhere. That one little play someone doesn't make will probably affect the whole team. But I think my prediction for the World Series this year is 100% the Baltimore Orioles. But why? Because they are a team that has every single piece of their roster. They have 5 people that will obviously show up every single game. They have King Harry, they have Goldfish, they have Plove, they have S'mores, they have Basalt, Agent. These are all really great teams. These are all really great players, but they all have to step up. And I believe they will. They have a pretty good solid pitcher in S'mores. Hasn't had a great year, but last year he did really good. He's a World Series champion, so we'll see if he makes a run for the AL Cy Young. We'll see. Bottom line is, if you want to win baseball games in the RMLB, you have to have fundamentally sound players at each position. Left fielder covers all the hoops over there, backs up the center fielder if needed. Center fielder has usually one hoop they have to cover. So it's really easy for them. But in some parks, like mine that I'm sitting in right now, there's 3 hoops in center field. So it really all depends. But you really have to get to know all the fields. That's what the regular season is for. You just come into the postseason, there's going to be a lot of rules you don't know. There's going to be a lot of unfamiliar places you don't know, which will really hurt you, team owner-wise. But wrapping it up here, I really think the Orioles have a shot to win it this year because they are a complete team. Once again, if you don't have a complete team, you won't win. It's like my experience of owning. I had the Phillies, right? We had 2 or 3 players to show up to each game, which was not enough. That's why I lost in 2 games in the Division Series in Season 2. I did good. Everybody else on my team was great. It just wasn't working. There was missing pieces all over the field. It's all about having the complete team. For the 100th time, I'm going to say it. It's really It's the coach's problem. The coach has to step up. At least one player has to show up and be a leader on the team. But if the team owner is flocking and everything, like completely ignoring, the team won't win. Bottom line right there. And that's where I'm going to end it. So thank you guys all for watching my first podcast. I hope you enjoy it. A new one should be posted probably tomorrow or later today, because it is 1 a.m. But but yeah. So thank you guys for watching, and I really hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. Let me know if you want to be on the podcast, DM me or anything. I'll let you be on the podcast. But if you want to see more, tell me you want to see more. All right? See ya.